They say the kitchen is the heart of any home. Well, if you look at the Las Vegas Strip right now, the heart has stopped beating. We aren't just talking about expensive burgers or shrinking portions anymore. We are looking at a full-scale extinction event. In 2025, something terrifying happened. Legendary dining halls, celebrity chef hotspots, and places that defined the Vegas experience for 20 years. They didn't just struggle, they died. The open signs have been replaced by plywood. The lines of hungry tourists have been replaced by dust. From the budget-friendly buffets we grew up with, to the multi-million-dollar luxury temples, a wave of closures has swept through the desert, leaving nothing but dark windows in its wake. This is the Vegas Dining Massacre. And if you think this is just normal business, you aren't looking closely enough at the bodies left behind. To me, walking past these shuttered restaurants last week felt like walking through a graveyard of memories. Instead of the smell of steak and the sound of laughter, there was just a cold metal gate pulled shut. It didn't feel like a renovation. It felt like a crime scene. It's a specific kind of sadness to see a permanently closed sign on an institution that used to feed thousands of people a day. It feels personal. It feels like the city isn't just cutting costs. It's cutting out the very things that made us feel welcome. When the food goes, the hospitality goes with it. And right now, the hospitality is bleeding out on the casino floor. Stick with me, because we are going to perform an autopsy on the 7 biggest casualties of 2025. These aren't just failed businesses. They are evidence of a much bigger, uglier truth about where this city is heading. We will look at the exact moment the cheap Vegas dream officially ended. And we will expose the arrogant celebrity projects that burned through millions of dollars in months. And when we get to the final closure on this list, I will reveal the financial reality that the casinos are desperate to hide. The real reason why they are starving their own customers. Part 1. The Buffet at Luxor. The end of cheap Vegas. Let's start with the most painful loss, the one that officially marks the end of an era. We have to talk about the Luxor Buffet. On March 30th, 2025, the lights went out at the buffet at Luxor for the last time. For decades, this wasn't just a place to eat, it was a rite of passage. It was the basement of the pyramid where you could feast like a pharaoh for the price of a movie ticket. It was chaotic, loud, and glorious. The democratization of luxury, where a truck driver and a CEO could stand in the same line for carved prime rib. But that silence today signifies a near total extinction. According to industry data, we have gone from over 70 buffets before 2020 to just about 8 on the main strip today. Think about that. We haven't just lost a restaurant, we have lost 90% of an entire ecosystem. Why does this matter? Because the buffet was the ultimate loss leader. For 50 years, the casinos accepted losing money on food as the cost of hospitality. They fed you well so you would stay and play. But digging through shareholder calls, the philosophy has shifted. The new corporate mandate is cold. No more loss leaders. Every single square foot must generate immediate profit. The closure of the Luxor Buffet is the final nail in the coffin of cheap Vegas. Management realized they could turn off the food spigot, cut labor, and people would still show up. They looked at the spreadsheets and decided your nostalgia wasn't worth their profit margin. But here is the problem they didn't calculate. When you take away the cheap food, you take away the regular folks, the families, and the energy that makes Vegas, Vegas. Now, that massive space sits dark, a tomb within a pyramid, proof that the deal is dead, murdered by a calculator. Part 2. Cathédrale, the multi-million-dollar mystery. You might be thinking, okay, the cheap buffets are dying because the profit margins are too thin. That makes sense. You might assume that the luxury sector, the places charging $30 for a cocktail, is safe, but you would be wrong. Because the second casualty on our autopsy table proves that even millions of dollars in investment cannot protect you from a bad idea. We need to talk about the multi-million-dollar mystery that was Cathédrale at the Aria. When this place opened its doors in May 2023, it was heralded as the next great dining destination. It had everything the corporate executives love: a French Mediterranean concept, a stunning, cavernous design that looked like an art installation, and a prime location inside one of the most sophisticated resorts on the Strip. It was built to be a money-printing machine for the high-roller crowd. But just 2 years later, in May 2025, Cathédrale is dead. Gone. For a restaurant of this caliber, lasting only 2 years is not just a failure, it is a catastrophe. In the restaurant world, that is essentially a stillbirth. So, how does a project with this much backing collapse so quickly? If you listen to the food critics and the confused tourists on the forums, the answer lies in its own arrogance. They tried to be too clever. The restaurant was famous for its hidden entrance, a discreet, speakeasy-style door that you had to know about to find. It was designed to feel exclusive, to make you feel like an insider. But in a city fighting for every foot of traffic, invisibility is a death sentence. It turns out people didn't want to hunt for their dinner. The cool factor backfired. While other restaurants were screaming for attention, Cathédrale was hiding in the shadows, waiting for an elite crowd that simply didn't show up in large enough numbers. Its quick closure sends a chilling message to every investor on the Strip. You can build a palace, you can hire the best designers, and you can charge premium prices. But if you prioritize vibes over visibility, Vegas will eat you alive. Part 3. Nusr-Et/Salt Bae, the price of hype. If Cathédrale was a tragedy of poor design, this next death was something the locals have been praying for. It was a tragedy of pure, unadulterated ego. We are talking about the collapse of the Salt Bae Empire. On January 28, 2025, the Nusr-Et Steakhouse shut its doors for good. It lasted less than 3 years. You know the name, you know the meme, the sunglasses, the white t-shirt, the salt sprinkling down the elbow. For a brief moment in history, internet hype seemed like a valid business model. This restaurant was the temple of that hype. It was famous not for the quality of its cooking, but for the audacity of its prices. This was the home of the gold tomahawk, a steak wrapped in gold leaf that cost $2,400. Let that sink in. $2,400 for a piece of meat. When it opened, it was packed with influencers desperate for a selfie. But here is the brutal truth about the Vegas economy that Salt Bae didn't understand. A selfie is not a loyal customer. Hype has a shelf life, and in 2025, it expired. As the economy tightened and people started watching their wallets, the idea of paying a mortgage payment for a dinner became offensive. The novelty wore off, and once the smoke cleared, the ugly reality set in. There were reports of lawsuits, labor disputes, and controversies at his other locations swirling in the news. The brand became toxic. The closure of Nusr-Et is perhaps the most satisfying on this list because it represents a return to sanity. It proves that you cannot fool the market forever. You cannot serve mediocrity wrapped in gold foil and expect longevity. Vegas is a town of hustlers, sure, but it respects value. And when the influencers moved on to the next shiny thing, there was no one left to pay the bill. The Salt Bae era is over, and honestly, good riddance. Part 4. Carlos and Charlie's, the Unilateral execution. If the previous closures were about bad strategy or bad ego, this next one is about something far more terrifying: raw, unchecked corporate power. We need to talk about what happened to Carlos and Charlie's at the Flamingo. For over a decade, this wasn't the fanciest place on the Strip, but it was real. It was a party spot, a place where regular people could let loose without needing a reservation 6 months in advance. It was a staple. But in November 2025, the music stopped, violently. 79 employees woke up to find out their livelihoods were gone. But it's the reason why they lost their jobs that should send a shiver down your spine. In the official warn notice filed with the state, the restaurant didn't say they were bankrupt. They didn't say they lacked customers. They stated clearly that the landlord, Caesars Entertainment, had unilaterally triggered an early termination option. Unilateral. That is the key word. It means it didn't matter that the restaurant was busy. It didn't matter that nearly 80 families depended on those paychecks. The landlord simply decided they wanted the space back, perhaps for something shinier, something more profitable, and they pulled the plug. This is the cold reality of the modern strip. You are a tenant in their kingdom, and you serve at their pleasure. It's a reminder that loyalty means nothing to a spreadsheet. One day, you are a beloved fixture of the Flamingo. The next day, you are an eviction notice. It leaves us wondering, if a stable, decade-long partner can be executed with a single signature, is any business on the strip actually safe? Part 5. Picasso, the death of culture. Now we move from the party atmosphere of the Flamingo to the hallowed halls of the Bellagio. This next closure hurts differently. It doesn't feel like a business failing. It feels like the lights of civilization dimming, just a little bit. We are talking about the end of Picasso. For 26 years, this wasn't just a restaurant. It was an art gallery that served food. You sat surrounded by 11 authentic Pablo Picasso masterpieces worth over $100 million. It was the crown jewel of the Bellagio's golden era, a time when Steve Wynn wanted to prove that Las Vegas could have class, not just kitsch. But in August 2024, just ahead of this 2025 wave of darkness, the legendary chef Julian Serrano hung up his apron, and the doors closed forever. Why is this significant? Because Picasso represented a version of Vegas that valued beauty. It was a place where you went to celebrate life's biggest moments. Its closure marks the retirement of an entire philosophy. The new Vegas doesn't want you to sit for 3 hours admiring a painting and savoring a soufflé. They want turnover. They want you back on the casino floor. Removing a culinary landmark like this is like tearing down a library to build a vape shop. Sure, the new thing might make money, but the soul of the building is gone. With Picasso gone, we aren't just losing a menu. We are losing the last connection to a time when this city tried to be something more than just a giant slot machine. It's the end of the grand era. And frankly, what's replacing it looks a lot cheaper, even if it costs twice as much. Part 6. Bazaar Meat, the confusing closure. If Picasso died with dignity, our next casualty died in confusion. We need to talk about the strange case of Bazaar Meat at the Sahara. For over 10 years, this was arguably one of the best steakhouses in the city. It was a heavyweight. But on July 31st, 2025, it vanished. And the way it happened should make every customer nervous. Just months before the closure, rumors started swirling online that the end was near. And what did the casino do? They denied it. Representatives brushed off the questions. They acted as if everything was business as usual. And then, suddenly, the announcement dropped and the doors locked. This is what we call corporate gaslighting. It creates an atmosphere of deep instability. When a business denies the truth until the very last second, it shows a lack of respect for the patrons and the staff. It makes you wonder what else they aren't telling us. The closure of Bazaar Meat proves that in 2025, longevity means nothing. You can serve the best food in town for a decade, but if the backroom deal changes, you are gone. It leaves the Sahara with a massive hole in its lineup and leaves us with a lingering question. Who can we actually trust? Part 7. Rivea. Even stars can't stay. And finally, we arrive at the closure that shatters the last illusion of safety. If you thought being a global superstar would save you, look at Rivea. Perched high atop the W Las Vegas, Rivea was the domain of Alain Ducasse. We're talking about a chef who holds over 20 Michelin stars globally. He is a titan. He is culinary royalty. And yet, in June 2025, even he was evicted. Think about the optics of this. You have one of the most famous names in the history of food. You have one of the most spectacular views of the Las Vegas Strip. And it still failed. This is the ultimate proof of the Vegas meat grinder. The competition has become so fierce, the rents so high, and the operational costs so astronomical that even a brand built on excellence cannot survive the math. It tells us that the era of the celebrity chef savior is ending. Casinos used to pay millions just to have a famous name on the door to add prestige. Now, They don't care about prestige. They care about yield. If a Michelin star legend can't hit the quarterly targets, he gets cut, just like the buffet. No pedestal is high enough to protect you from the bottom line. So where does this leave us? We have walked through the graveyard. We have seen the death of value, the death of culture, and the death of loyalty. It is easy to look at this list and say that Las Vegas is finished. But let's take a breath and look at this through the lens of history. This isn't the first time the city has stumbled. Vegas is a living organism, and right now, it is sick. It got greedy. It pushed prices too high, cut quality too low, and forgot who its friends were. But the basic rule of economics is gravity. What goes up must come down. The massacre of 2025 is painful, but it might be necessary. It is a market correction. When $70 steaks and $20 cocktails sit unsold, prices will eventually have to drop. When the luxury towers sit empty, they will have to invent the next loss leader to bring us back. The city is ruthless, yes, but it is also adaptive. This crash is a wake-up call. The corporations pushed the American consumer to the breaking point, and finally, the consumer pushed back. But I want to know what you think. Is this just a cycle and the good old days will return? Or has the corporate greed permanently destroyed the soul of Sin City? Which one of these closures hurt you the most? I read every single comment, so let me know your thoughts down below. And if you want to support honest, deep dive journalism that tells you the truth about the economy, please hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep the lights on, even when the casinos are turning theirs off. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.